Tekken. Just hearing that word just gets me fired up and wants me going to fight somebody in the street. I've been playing Tekken for a long time. Not so much the later ones, but very much I played a lot of the early ones, just because modern day life has taken really the forefront in my life. This game started off life in the arcade, and in my opinion has become one of the big three, along with Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. It's had an interesting history. There's been some highs, there's been some lows, then some really big highs. And as we all know, the new game is about to hit. It's about a month to go, if that, a few weeks. And Tekken 8 is going to drop. And I decided I wanted to do my own little retrospect. And it's going to be a brief history mixed in with some lore and my experiences. I should say, if you're after a more, in-depth into the development or in-depth into the lore, this ain't the video for you. This is just me giving my brief little thing and taking the mick. Having a laugh, having a joke, okay? I'm not a big science guru, I'm not a historian, I just want to have a laugh with these things, okay? Shall we go with it? We all know the rules, we all know what we're getting ourselves in for. And I should say, first of all, if you are watching this, then please give this a like, comment, and subscribe. I really want to help get this channel to 1,000, and eventually we're going to be doing more retrospects in the future. Now, prior to Tekken's release, Street Fighter 2 ruled the world. It did. Well, not physically ruled the world. It wasn't going out with, submitting governments to its will. But in the gaming world, it was. Street Fighter 2 dominated the fighting scene. It was absolutely incredible. And the problem was that Street Fighter 2 was starting to have was 3D was coming. And in our minds, 3D meant better than 2D. Sorry, Street Fighter 3, that's how we all thought back then. We thought, oh, it's a 3D game, it must be fantastic. And leading the charge at that time was Virtual Fighter by Sega. Now, the game looks very dated now, but it was still a success. Sega were really doing really well with this game. Virtual Fighter was a big thing for them. Namco looked at this and decided, you know what, we want a piece of that fighting game pie. So they decided to make their own fighter, and Tekken was created. The problem was that Virtual Fighter 2 was released straight after, and was better looking and better playing compared to Tekken 1. Because Tekken 1 looked like this. Okay, it's not horrendous, it's not absolutely disgusting, but it's still a long, long way from where we are today, isn't it? Come on, you gotta be honest. Most fighting games decided to have a scheme like where they had high punch, low punch, mid punch, high kick, mid kick, low kick. Where Tekken decided to do something a little bit different. They decided each of the 4 buttons would control a different limb. So one controls your left arm, one controls your right arm, left leg, right arm. You get the picture. And this would lead then to an absurd amount of commands for each character. Like, oh my god, square triangle does something, X circle does something, left circle does something. It's ridiculous. It's literally the amount of combinations of a Rubik's Cube. It's insane how many they are. You could make whole Bibles on characters. And this is a staple through Tekken's franchise. And it's been going on forever now. If you look at move lists, it's like looking through its own Bible. It's ridiculous. I know I'm just trying to get things off my head, but that's what it is. It's insane. Now, characters themselves would fight on a 3D stage with no walls. And this was to try and give the arena some sense of scale. The original game had 8 characters to choose from. And each would have their own sub-boss. They would fight across various stages, which were kind of based in real life. There was Kyoto, Marine Stadium, Venice, and Windermere. Windermere? Okay, look, people are probably thinking, why am I making a big thing about Windermere? But Windermere is in the Lake District in the UK. It's just not that exciting. It's pretty to look at. Don't get me wrong. Really? Windermere? My dad lives near Windermere. My mum and my stepdad go up there on their boat. Okay, it's not a big fancy boat, don't get that in your head. But still, Windermere? Really? Has Windermere ever appeared in a video game since or before? Somebody tell me that. Really? Okay? Nonsense. Now, with it being a fighting game, there was a plot. And as we go into the story of Tekken, the plot's a bit all over the place. It's a bit nutty, okay? Let's just go with what we've got, okay? Now, prior to the game's start, Heihachi Mishima threw his son, Kazuya, off a cliff. Yes, he did. He threw his son off a cliff Now this was to see how strong his son was and if he was strong enough to lead the Zaibatsu, which was Heihachi's little organisation he had. Just a little organisation. Now this was retconned. Later on we'll discuss that, but I'm going to say it right here now. I have a daughter, and I'm not going to throw her off a cliff to test how strong she is. That's not... I don't encourage that, right? And as you could imagine, Kazuya was a little bit pissed. He was a little bit furious of being thrown off a cliff. And in response, Heihachi set up the King of Iron Fist tournament, which brought some of the best fighters across the world. Kazuya ended up winning because he had what was called the Devil Gene. Now, we're going to get onto that at some point. And in response, he decided to throw his father off the same cliff. Well, I suppose serves you right, to be honest. And he took control of the Zaibatsu. Yes, Kazuya is a bit of a knob. He is an anti-hero, although you think he's a protagonist, he is, but he's a bit of a bellend. He really is. Now, we're going to go into the characters in a bit, but we should say how this actually did. Bit of a side note here, Kazuya got into Smash Brothers, which was an absolutely amazing deal, and they decided to use this ending as a bit of a segue to his reveal, where he's just basically being Kazuya and throwing everyone off the cliff into the volcano. Standard Kazuya behaviour, to be honest, although it is extremely clear to everyone in gaming, and I knew this was coming, you can't kill Kirby. No matter what you do, you cannot kill Kirby. But it was still a big reveal for him to actually be in the game. Now back to the main project. Although I said Kazuya's ending is canon, each character did have their own ending. Now we will get into this later on, but I did want to show one ending from Tekken 1 which was absolutely stupid, and this was King's ending as he arrives to the orphanage, and all of a sudden, oh my god, real children came out. Yeah, they couldn't be bothered animating it, so they thought, fuck it, we'll just stick these children in. Stupid. In the arcade, it didn't review better than Virtua Fighter 2, but it did quite well because it was being sold a lot cheaper than Virtua Fighter 2. Virtua Fighter 2 was a fortune to get in the arcades. This weren't. A year later, the PlayStation 1 port came out, and this allowed us access to all those sub-boss characters who we'll be going into shortly, and it also included the Devil, who was unlocked beating a Galaga game-based minigame, which I did. I did that. I did it. I was so happy that it took me a long time, but I bloody did it. This game also introduced Katsuro Harada to Tekken. Harada is considered the Tekken guy, like wherever he goes, it's Tekken. He really is. But in this game, he voiced one of the characters, Martial Law. Also, I'm going to put this out there now. Screw Martial Law. Screw Martial Law and his front-flipping bollocks. Right, I know I've just been kind of skating over some of these characters, so it's probably best I go over these, shall I? The main character is Kazuya, as we already discussed. He is the protagonist of the game, but is actually an anti-hero, basically just wants to kill his father in revenge. Jack is a hulking big robot. He's there to try and stop Kazuya. He's on the instructions, kill him. King is a loose-jaw Mexican fighter who wears a jaguar mask and only speaks in roars. Yes, apparently, people understand this. I didn't realise roar was some sort of communicative language, but apparently in the Tekken universe, it is. He's just trying to raise money for the orphanage that he runs. Yoshimitsu is the leader of his own ninja clan who changes forms every appearance. Paul Phoenix is considered Kazuya's rival. The two have battled many times, and their results have kind of favoured each way. He has some of the coolest hair in video games. Nina Williams is an Irish assassin whose father was part of the IRA. Martial Law is a Bruce Lee knockoff who's entered the tournament to try and raise money for his own restaurant. And Michelle Chang, who is a conservationist and wants to basically screw Heihachi over for screwing her family. Then you've got the subcast. Armor King, another Jaguar fighting wrestling man who is King's rival. Kuni bit. This is going to get me in trouble. I can't say this name without getting potentially banned. Mitsu. I'm just going to call her K-Mitsu. I ain't getting in trouble with that one. No. She's from a rival clan and hates Yoshimitsu. Now, unfortunately for Kuni, the developers forgot she was a woman and decided to use a man's voice during the game. This was later corrected on future games. Li Chaolan is the adopted son of Heihachi. He adopted Li just to piss Kazuya off and have a rival for him. I gotta balls that, Heihachi. Ganryu is a sumo wrestler, and Heihachi likes to have him as a bit of a bodyguard. P-Jack, or Prototype Jack, was there as basically the prototype version of Jack. Wang Chen-rei is an old martial arts master and was the friend of Heihachi's father, Jinpachi. Anna Williams is the sister of Nina Williams and hates her. Simple as that. Kuma. Kuma is a bear. Kuma is a bloody bear that knows martial arts because he's Heihachi's pet, and Heihachi taught this bear how to kick the crap out of people. It doesn't make sense how he's trained a bear to do martial arts. This is where the game gets silly. Don't come at me with it's only a video game, it's my video. And finally, we've got the Devil. Now, the Devil is Kazuya's side. As Kazuya was thrown off a cliff, he made the deal as he was going back up to give his soul to the Devil. And the Devil obliged and wanted to just kick everyone's ass. Now, going forward, Tekken 2 debuted a year later in the arcades, and this was an absolute critical success. It then went on to the PlayStation 1, and this was the first game I ever played on the PS1, and it was my introduction to the whole Tekken series. So I actually went back to Tekken 1 not even knowing anything about it before I played Tekken 2. I was a young lad back then. I have one of those memories where a friend's late brother brought over his PlayStation 1, and I can remember there was a forest stage when I was playing with Yotomitsu, and I just thought, this looks incredible. Like, just the box art of Tekken 2 just seems so grown up and cool. This was the next level of video gaming. I felt such an adult playing Tekken 2. And as I earlier said, I then went back to Tekken 1 thinking, I wonder what the predecessor's like, and... Yes, I know, I'm still making that reference because you go play Tekken 2 to Tekken 1, it's ridiculous, okay? There is a thing. Now, 17 characters returned, but there were 8 new. Some of these were unlockable. You had Jack 2, well, this is a big recurring thing with Jack. Every one, there's always a new version of it. Lei Wulong, who is a police officer on the hunt for Bruce Irvin. Bruce Irvin is a champion kickboxer who just likes to beat the crap out of people. Baek Do-son is a Taekwondo champion and just basically wants to get the prize money. Angel, now Angel's an interesting one. Angel is the Devil's counterpart and essentially represents the good side of Kazuya. Plays exactly the same as the Devil, has laser beams, ridiculous. Then you've got the god that is Jun Kazama. Oh yes, did I love Jun Kazama? She was my main, she's incredible, I absolutely love her. And then finally, you got these two, Roger and Alex. I know we had a bear, I know we've got Kuma, but now we've got a kangaroo and a velociraptor with boxing gloves. What the absolute fuck? This game is stupid. But don't get me wrong, I loved using them because they had this little wind-up punch when you go, and if you unleashed it, it did like 3/4 of the health, and it was so easy to do, but it was so funny if it hit at the same time. Oh, it was great. Now, there was a plot to this as well. This was set 2 years after Tekken 1, and Kazuya, as I said, he's a knob. He's taking over everything. He is literally power mad. Heihachi has climbed back up, and he isn't very happy, well, as you can imagine. The new tournament is made so all Daddy can be drawn back in so they can fight once more. Paul actually ended up beating Heihachi to fight Kazuya in the final round, but then he had to forfeit because of traffic, which is ridiculous. So plot-wise, which allowed Heihachi to come back and beat Kazuya. And in revenge, Heihachi decides, the cliff's too good for him, I'm going to throw him into a volcano and regain the Zaibatsu. Yes, he threw his own son into a volcano. What's the absolute? Ridiculous. That is some family love right there. I pray to God my dad does not throw me into a volcano one day. Thanks, Dad. Now, also as part of this, June gets pregnant to Kazuya. They never explain how that happens, why that happens, but apparently it does. I said I love this game, and I do. It opened my eyes to the next era of gaming. No, it was not N64 when I played Mario 64. Screw you, Mario. It was Tekken 2. The game improved on everything from the first one. It played great, it had so many characters, and whenever I was being babysat, this is all we used to play. It had a team battle mode, which had to make me get better, because obviously I can't just rely on one character, although we did have a rule, you weren't allowed to use Angel and Devil because they had that stupid laser beam. The English footballer David James blamed this game for his career going downhill. No, David, it's because you did stuff like this.
feels like you'll do time when you're in bed.
Now, this game was considered the best of its class when it came out, and it firmly put Tekken on the map. It took me and my brother so long to get our own copy because my mum didn't have the money. So we waited until it became platinum and then it was only £20. We're like, yay! A few years later, Tekken 3 landed, and oh wow, oh wow. I first got the demo with the official PlayStation magazine, and the front cover blew me away. Who were these new characters? I had no idea. Me and my brother would play the demo disc so much. You only got to use 2 characters, Eddie and Ling, but we used this so much, and all I can say, Eddie Guardo is the biggest cheat ever because he is the ultimate button masher I've ever seen. All he would do, you just press his kick buttons and have fun. It was ridiculous. I used to laugh when I was playing back in the old Tekken games, and I had a friend called Tom, and all he would do was the same kick, 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 kick. Now I know you can say skill issue, but come on, I was a kid. Now Tekken 3 arrived, it got perfects across the board, and I just couldn't believe how well this felt. Like, I've gone and played this recently from a podcast, and it still plays fantastically. It holds up. The sound, the graphics, the gameplay, it's fantastic. And they finally got 3D fighters right, like all the limbs seem to be actually connected in this one. Like, the characters felt how they should, not like Tekken 1 when they had this biggest air jumps like they were on the moon. It was insane. But the other big thing was, it was set 20 years from Tekken 2. Of the 23 characters this game had, 7 were returning and 16 were new. Now that is absolutely mental. It's a huge risk. Now look at Street Fighter 3. They did a time skip and they had a whole new crew aside from Ryu and Ken, and it alienated everybody. Everyone couldn't believe it. They had no link to these characters. And now Tekken are doing the same thing, and this could be an absolute, well, it could fail. But it didn't. Now, before we go into the characters, I'm going to go into the bit of the plot, because I think you need a bit of the backstory. As I said, it's been 20 years since Tekken 2, and now the god of fighting Ogre has risen, as he wants to try and get the energy of some of the best fighters in the world. And go around beat up people he did. In fact, he actually killed the original king from 1 and 2, made June and Beck go missing, and they weren't seen for a long time. The main character of this game, and then the franchise, is Jin Kazama, who is the son of Kazuya and June. After his mother went missing, Jin went under the tutelage of his grandfather Heihachi so he could take revenge on Ogre for supposedly killing his mother. Now let's talk about some of these other characters. Brian Fury is an undead cyborg kickboxer sent by Dr. Abel to get Dr. Bosnovich. There's Eddie Guardo, a capoeira fighter, who wants to get revenge on the Zaibatsu for having assassinated his parents. Forrest Law, who's a son of martial law and has a very good resemblance and fights like him, is completing to earn money to help out his father. Gun Jack is simply the third model of the Jack series. Harang is the student of Beck and Jin's best friend, and he wants to take revenge against Ogre for apparently killing his teacher. Julia Chang is the adopted daughter of Michelle Chang, setting out to rescue a kidnapped mother from the Zaibatsu. King 2 is the successor of the original king, who participates to save his predecessor's orphanage after the original is killed by Ogre, and he's under the tutelage of the original king's friend, Armor King. Kuma 2 is the son of the original Kuma, also serving as Heihachi's loyal pet and bodyguard, and of course, this thing knows martial arts as well. Ling Ziyu is a Chinese teenager who wants to win the money to open her own amusement park. Fair enough. Mokujin is a 2,000-year-old wooden dummy who came to life as a result of Ogre's awakenings. Now, this thing is a randomized character, and you can switch between the different styles it has. Panda is Zayu's pet and bodyguard, and because, of course, Kuma has a crush on her. Then you've got Ogre, the mysterious boss who's known as the God of Fighting. Ogre has 2 forms. He has a humanoid way, where he looks kind of like a Roman attacker, and then he's got Ancient Ogre, which is a final dark-coloured monster. Ugh. Then you've got Tiger Jackson, who is a disco man with afro. Now he is just a skin for Eddie, but he's so goddamn cool! The final 2 characters are a bit of a joke. Dr. Bosnovich is a silly, elderly genius scientist who's Yoshimitsu's friend. You can use him, but the problem is, as he starts rolling around and fighting, he suddenly collapses because he's not well. Oh, it's just a pain in the arse to fight. Then you've got Gon, who is a special guest character from the manga of the same name. Oh my god, Gon, this little orange dinosaur who could barely attack you and can fart, and it's an attack. Gon is a pain in the arse to go against, although hilarious to use, and sadly, we've not seen Gon ever since Tekken 3. Boo, boo, boo. Now you're probably thinking the same thing. How the hell are Nina and Anna in this game? Well, they did a Walt Disney and put themselves into cryo sleep just to wake up for this tournament. A little side note with Yoshimitsu, every time he appears in a game, he gets a new design, and for me, Tekken 3 and Tekken Tag is always the best iteration of him. He looks absolutely godlike in this version. He looks pretty good in Tekken 8, I've got to be honest as well, but Tekken 3 for me is always the most iconic. As the tournament goes on, Paul Phoenix is actually the one who defeats Ogre. But because he thinks he's won, he walks off, and then True Ogre appears, and it's left to Jin Kazama to take over. Now, after Jin defeats True Ogre, Heihachi decides, I don't need you anymore, because I needed you to lure out Ogre. He ends up shooting his grandson. However, to his dismay, Jin becomes the devil and flies away. See, I mentioned earlier Kazuya made a deal with the devil. That's not kind of true. What got retconned was Kazuya is actually the possession of a devil gene. This basically makes him the devil, and it can be passed on, which it was, to his son Jin. So now you've got Jin is the current devil, and he flies off, and yeah, Heihachi's like, oh, that's not good, I've got another one to deal with. I played this game religiously, It was my go-to fighter on the PlayStation 3. I know Street Fighter Alpha 3 is a very good game, but this is absolutely incredible because I still can't believe how well this played. But the PlayStation 1 was coming to an end, and the PS2 was coming in, all guns blazing. With that cool DVD player equipped, everyone wanted a PS2. And so what did Namco do? Well, they decided to make Tekken Tag a launch title and acted as a non-canon game. Tekken Tag Tournament was absolutely brilliant when it decided to bring back every character into the game. Jun, Kazuya, Devil, all back. It was great. It used the gameplay that was built on Tekken 3, but the character models look absolutely incredible. You would pick 2 characters to go into battle with, and you could switch them on the fly. If Jun Kazama was getting her health pushed down quite low, you could switch her out for Kazuya, and then Kazuya would be able to fight on while Jun was getting her health back. If either one of your characters ended up getting knocked out, the battle was over. But it was great because you got to use different combinations that you never thought were going to be possible. You could have King and Armor King, Heihachi and Kazuya, Kuma and Panda if you wanted to. It was funny, it was absolutely great. And the new character they introduced to this game was called Unknown. Now Unknown was another Mokujin type of character where she would start and use random people's abilities. But she'd always started off as Jun. So for me, it was great, because I had 2 Juns. I was like, woohoo! It was great. I was in so much fun. Now, people describe Tekken Tag as a prettier version of Tekken 3, and I was like, yeah, and? Who cares? It was great. I played this so much. It was the sole reason I wanted a PS2 when it came out, and the game sold nearly 500,000 copies in the first 4 days. That's mental. Mental. And it was a game we had to play for a long time because it was a while till the next Tekken came out. But after a few years, it did, in the release of Tekken 4. Now, Tekken 4, this one is often nicknamed the black sheep of the family. I only played this a little at friends, and I can understand why, because it felt so different. It really was. This game was, well, Namco wanted to go down to that realism, gritty type of way that those early 2000s were, because we were all meant to believe that this is the future, and nothing can get better than this. You want an example? Look at The Bouncer, one of the worst games on the PlayStation 2, and I will fight anyone to the death that it is. And that was the whole thing with Tekken. It wanted to, put things back into realism and make it that dark sense that was actually on our own humanity, and a lot of the funny characters were taken out. However, there's a bear. There's a bear. Kuma is still in the game, so stick that up your arse. That doesn't make sense. And another side note about this bear. The bear has sneakers. What the absolute fuck? Who goes to the shop and says, can you make me some custom shoes? Oh, what size are they? Don't know. Bear size. It's stupid. Although, I shouldn't really complain. Tekken loves its sneakers. Kazuya loves his sneakers, as I got shown in a recent trailer. I bought this because one day I will cover it for the podcast, and one of my Patreons went, do you know what? Go buy it. And I did. Still sitting there. I haven't played it. It's ridiculous. Now, as with anything, there were 17 returning characters, and there were 6 new ones. You've got Christine Montero, who is basically Eddie Gordo. Combat, who is basically Mokujin. Can you see where this kind of repeats? Kraid Marduk is a Veil Tudo fighter who accidentally killed Armor King in a fight. It was completely accident at a bar fight when Armor King tried to intervene. He was in prison for manslaughter and then basically released, not knowing why, but it was actually King 2 who actually wanted to kill him. Next is Miharu Hirano, who's the best friend of Ling, and I wonder why she was popular. Next was Violet, the alter ego of Lee, which is just hilarious that Lee's in it with an alter ego. It's just ridiculous. Steve Fox, a young boxing champion from Britain who's out to seek about his past. And what you didn't know, Steve Fox was broken. He was a broken character in this original game and just dominated. Now, although they're the new characters, it's important to talk about other ones. Jin Kazama is in the game as well. However, he's decided to get rid of all his Mishima style and retrain in karate, so Jin is actually a new character, which is a big shock for me because I used to use Jin a lot in Tekken 3. And then finally, yeah, Kazuya's back. Yeah, apparently he's back. He was saved by an organization called G Corporation. They'd managed to survive him. So no one stays dead. No one stays dead in Tekken. It's one of those things. It's impossible. Now, in attempt to lure Kazuya and Jin out, Heihachi announced the next King of Iron Fist Tournament 4, with the prize money being the ownership of the Zaibatsu. Now, it ended up being that Jin got to the final stage against Heihachi, and he's about to kill him off when Jun appeared in front of him as a vision, and he decided to spare his honor. He then stretched his devil wings and flew off, and off he went into the night. Now, as I said, yes, it was gritty and dark. The plot was gritty and dark to begin with. But there were also things that Namco wanted to try. They wanted to try and make the battles feel a lot closer, so before the start of each round, you could actually move towards your opponent. Those limitless stages, which kind of a thing for Tekken, were gone. And now we had walls. Now I know walls are a part of Tekken, but here they were broken. It's called a wall smash. If you get smashed against a wall, you are in so much trouble in Tekken 4 that it kind of ruined the game. No one liked it too much. Thankfully, as they went forward, they've kind of reduced that a little bit more to make it a little bit fair. Yes, the game didn't work and it was a bit of a commercial failure, but Namco maybe should be applauded because at least they tried. They knew maybe that the series had to go a different direction and they wanted to see what worked. But again, you learn from these things, and this is what I say about how sometimes there is a bit of a low. But then a few years later, the team decided to go back and look at what made Tekken 4 fail and Tekken 3 work, and they came out with Tekken 5. And all I'm going to say is, wow, oh wow, oh wow. Tekken 5, in my opinion, is one of the best fighting games ever. It is one of the most I sank my life into, this along with the later released Street Fighter 4. I played this game to absolute death. The other cool thing was that you could fight now online against people, and yes, I did. I would fight against people so much and had so much fun fighting other people. It was great. And by being able to go online, it also meant I can customize my character, which was so much fun. And the customizable options became a staple for the franchise. You want a Jin Kazama with angel wings? Yeah, sure, you could do it. It was so much fun. And in my mind, Tekken at this point of the world was top dog and nothing could absolutely beat it. The game was fast, it was fluid, it looked great, and every Tekken now is based off 5. They really had learned of what they had from their mistakes. Now, as said, there were new characters, and let's go through some of them. Remember I told you how Jin decided to only use karate now? Well, because he's now a devil, if he got miffed off, there was Devil Jin, who used Jin's old moveset from Tekken 3 and Tekken Tag Tournament. Thank God. Feng Wei, an arrogant prodigy of the God Fist style who searches through Japan for information about the scrolls of the God Fist. Jack 5, because it's Jack, clearly. Raven, a mysterious ninja agent, aka Blade, who is actually trying to find out what happened to Heihachi, which we'll get onto shortly. Roger Jr., the wife and son duo of the boxing kangaroo Roger, sets to rescue their husband after he's apparently been kidnapped. Yes, the kangaroo is back. And yes, to talk about one of the other main characters, my favourite, my main, Asuka Kazama. Asuka Kazama is a relative of June, and she has been my main for a long time. And I love her. I absolutely love her. She was June, but better. God, I love this woman. So good, and don't get me wrong, when Tekken 8 rolls along, she's being used, she's my main, and I can go straight from the off with her. The big bad of this game was Jinpachi Mishima. Now, Tekken 5 actually starts from when Tekken 4 finished. That opening cinematic where you saw the black feathers flying down in the moonlight, and then the game beginning with Heihachi and Kazuya fighting for their life against Jax was absolutely incredible. It was so much fun. Now for Tekken 5, the plot evolves around Heihachi's father, Jinpachi Mishima. Now Jinpachi was actually a nice person. He used to sell weapons during World War II and then realised the folly of his ways and wanted to create world peace. However, as Heihachi grew up, he grew power mad and decided to lock his dad in a basement because that's what you do. Jinpachi passed away and then was taken over by a vengeful spirit, took over the Zaibatsu, and he then becomes the antagonist for the game. Jin manages to defeat Jinpachi, who dissolves into dust, and that's the end of that. With his victory, Jin then becomes the head of the Zaibatsu, setting in the motions for Tekken 6. As I said, Tekken 5 was probably the last Tekken game that I got my hands on, really, because unfortunately life took over, but I still consider it one of the best Tekken games, one of the best fighting games of all time. Now, I wasn't really going to talk about any of the other side games, but I think Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection should get a mention. This was on the PSP, and I did have this game, I bought it straight away. And it's basically having Tekken 5 on the go. It's pretty damn near exact to it. And considering a chance it gave me more time to practice with Asuka on the go, I wasn't going to complain. But another reason I was going to talk about this is it gave us 3 new characters, which I'm probably going to butcher the names. Sergei, a member of the Russian Spetsnaz, practicing Sambo who is sent to capture one of the bearers of the Devil Gene, such as really Jin. Lily, a teenager who's practicing Street Fighter, who participates in the tournament to take down the Mishima Zaibatsu, so she'll be able to put an end to her father's financial problems. And finally, Armor King 2. Yeah, didn't he die? No, he didn't. Well, he did. This is actually his younger brother, Armor King 2, who seeks revenge against Murdoch for killing his brother. And guess what? He can roar and everyone can understand it as well. Look at this! Like, how does anybody understand roar? It's not really the same when it's like a murder mystery. Can you imagine that? The killer is raw. Raw, 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 raw. And everyone's probably looking at Armor King going, what the fuck are you on, mate? But then you've got Tekken 6 on the PS3. And this is where the game really starts to lose me a bit. For the simple reason that Jin decides to then become the bad guy. And he then declares independence and decides to start declaring war against all the nations. Like, what the hell? I thought he was the good guy. But now he's doing exactly what his dad did and what his grandfather did before him. It was a ridiculous sense. And then you've got Kazuya, who's taking over the G Corporation, and they're basically warring at each other. This is ridiculous. So Jin announced the 6 Iron Fist tournament as a way to lure Kazuya out. Jin later admitted his reasons for launching the war on the world was to awaken Azzy thingy. I don't know how you pronounce that. We're just going to call him Azzy. Alright? Shout at me in the comments. As it can only take physical form through the negative energies of the world and destroy him. In doing this, he believed he would actually free himself of the Devil Gene in his body, revealing Azzy can only be destroyed by someone with the Devil Gene. So basically, yeah, Jin ends up winning and beating Azzy. But the problem was, so to do that, he finds out and decides, I've got to kill the whole world. You ain't coming back from that in the eyes of the world. You've literally annihilated everybody. I didn't understand the plot. I thought it was really bad to his character. You betray him as potentially being a good guy through Kazuya being the bad anti-hero, and here's the good guy, because we always need a good guy. Who is the good guy now? Because it's clearly not you, Jin, and it really upset me. I actually generally did. I was generally gutted. It's a character in a video game, I know, but I don't care. It made me sad. As always with the Tekken, there are new characters. There's Alyssa Bosnovich, an android who can use her own arms and head as a weapon, which is just... So Alyssa's become one of the main characters in the series just from Tekken 6, and it's ridiculous. She's an android that Dr. Bosnovich built on the image of his dead daughter, but I don't think his dead daughter could fire her head off as a weapon. Bob Richards, who is an American as a martial arts genius, but he was a big boy. He's a very big boy. I think someone's ripping off a certain Street Fighter character. Jack 6, yes, the new version of Jack. Lars Alexanderson, Heihachi's illegitimate son. That's a way of doing it. Heihachi got busy, didn't he, with his side projects. Leo, a German fighter, who's basically pissed off because his mother was killed by the hands of Kazuya. Miguel Rojo, a Spanish matador with a passion for fighting but no real discipline. He wants to get his revenge on Jin and the Mishiba Zaibatsu for causing the death of his sister at her wedding. See, it's never going to work out, Jin. Everyone hates you. Ridiculous. Zafina, a mysterious woman who enters the tournament to prevent the clash of two evil stars. I wonder if that could be father and son. Ah, it's just stupid Tekken plot bollocks, isn't it? The gameplay had minor changes as well. One of those being the walls and floors could actually be broken through to reveal new areas, which was pretty cool. It also introduced the rage system, and when a character's health was low, they would gain energy that would go around them to do more damage to their opponents. However, the game was heavily criticised for its online netcode. It was absolutely shocking. And a lot of people put the game down pretty quick because of it, because if you've got bad netcode, it's unplayable. Yes, this was patched, but no one wanted to play it. After the kind of meh with Tekken 6, Namco decided to reproduce lightning in a bottle with Tekken Tag Tournament 2. But did it work? No, I don't know why. Not for me personally. It just didn't hit the spot. Like, June was back, great, but now we're up to 58 characters and that's a lot. It also built on the game having those tag combos, which it was introduced in the first, but I just don't know, and I don't know why, but it just didn't seem to resonate with me. It did with other people, but unfortunately, I didn't really play this much. I've got it, don't get me wrong, I've got it. People can come at me and said it was a really great game. They could, I'm not disputing that, but for me, it just didn't hit it, and I was kind of not into tag battle of that way anymore. I wanted to play Tekken one-on-one. I wasn't interested in that tag mechanic. I kept thinking of what it was that made this game, well, not hit as much as the others. And maybe it was because there was no couch co-op. Well, there was, but I didn't really have my brother around anymore. Basically, people were playing online. And that was where I got all the memories from Tekken Tag, was when me and my brother would play constantly on that console. But yeah, he was nowhere to be seen at that point. Well, he was around the corner, but we couldn't be arsed playing together. If you're still watching this, then thank you so much. It makes me really happy to see that you've enjoyed this so far. But to also let you know that Retro Wars is not only a YouTube channel, but a weekly podcast where each week me and a friend will talk about the video games we used to play back when we were kids. Have a look at it from wherever you get your podcast from, and I'd love to see you over there. Now, as a retro show, this should really end because Tekken Tag 2 was on the PS3, and now Tekken 7, we're going to the PS4. But it kind of feels like I'm selling myself a bit short if we're not doing Tekken 7, really? So, yeah, we're going to cover it, aren't we? Now, Tekken 7 came out, and I think that this really put Tekken back again on the map. But sadly, due to other commitments in my life, I didn't really play it. Or Street Fighter 5 has said the fighting game genre was gone for me for a while. The game looked absolutely incredible. Like, look at that box art. That box art is absolutely fire. Insane. But the game also had a good plot. Well, it was heavily Mishima related. First of all, you got to Akuma and... what? Akuma? What? What the fuck? No. Well, hang on. Let's go back a step, shall we? Before we go into Tekken 7 any further, I think it's important to talk about two other games. Well, one game and a misstep. Street Fighter X Tekken and Tekken X Street Fighter. Capcom and Namco decided to make two separate games. One based on Street Fighter and one based on Tekken. Street Fighter and Tekken was released first using the Street Fighter 4 engine, kinda. It looked like Street Fighter 4, but it didn't really feel like Street Fighter 4. All the Tekken characters are developed to handle like Street Fighter does. And actually with all the characters in the DLC, you had 50 characters. It was a big ask for them to do. It was also a tag fighter as well, which I was a bit disappointed as I wanted it a single one. And whilst the game was mostly praised, it was ruined by one thing: gems. Now these gems could be attached and they could affect your attack, defense, speed, health, assist, your cross gauge after certain conditions were met. But the problem was these gems made the game unbalanced, and then of course you had some you could just pay for, which is like a big screw you, Capcom, and it didn't really last that long. Tekken vs Street Fighter, well, I rather said it was in the works, but it just fell apart and never happened and was eventually cancelled, which is a shame. One of the big issues was fireballs, because this was quite common on Street Fighter, which worked on a 2D plane. But for Tekken, they didn't really work because they worked on a 3D plane. I know it's silly because you have devils, bears, kangaroo, so what's an energy ball? But no, it proved to be one of the issues. But then, yeah, come Tekken 7, Akuma's in the plot, and he's central to it as well. It's absolutely insane how he's actually in this game. He's in fact linked with Heihachi's wife, which is mental. So the plot of this is basically a journalist going through and finding out what really happened and what's the story behind the whole thing. Bit of a summary. But it also gives a bit of a history to how the Devil Gene came about, Heihachi's relationship with his family. Heihachi had a wife. Her name was Kazumi Mishima. She possessed the Devil Gene, and originally she was there to try and assassinate Heihachi, but she fell in love with him. But unfortunately he became a big bad and she had to take action and try to kill him. But Heihachi, being an absolute god himself, killed her in self-defense, but he was absolutely gutted. And then when he realised Kazuya is probably going to possess that gene as well, that's when he decided to throw him off a cliff, and if he survived, he'd realise, yep, this kid's got it. Now, before she died, Kazumi asked Akuma to fulfill her will if she was to pass away and kill Heihachi and Kazuya. And yeah, that's what ends up Akuma's trying to do throughout this whole game. Jin's not really in this game, as he's kind of resting after fighting Azi, but there are plenty of new characters that come with this. There's Claudio Serafino, a white-clad man from Italy who's a member of the anti-devil organisation combated the Devil's Gene threat. Of course he is. Fa Kum Ram, I butchered that, a tall Muay Thai champion from Thailand. He's fighting to free his captive wife and held hostage by corrupt officials. Gigas, a hulking red-skinned humanoid who appears to have cybernetics attached to his otherwise nude body. Jack 7, because of course. Josie Rizel, a young Filipino woman who wears a yellow top, blue miniskirt and a red bow. Katrina Alves, a sassy woman from Brazil who practices the art of savate. Kuni Woman 2, who is the daughter of the first one, who's after Yoshimitsu. Leroy Smith, who's a Wing Chun master from New York City. He looks cool as anything, and he's after trying to get his revenge on Heihachi. Lydia Sobieski, the young Prime Minister of Poland. The Prime Minister of Poland is now fighting. Could you imagine if you had one day Donald Trump going against Boris Johnson? That'd be hilarious. Lucky Chloe, an idol who wears a kitten-themed costume. I wonder if she's done quite well in her life. Master Raven, Akanuchi, with a fighting style very similar to Raven. She's actually in charge of the organisation. Now, Shaheen, a Saudi Arabian man who uses military self-defense fighting style. Now, along with these characters, this game decided to bring guest characters, and oh yes, some of them were incredible. First up was Geese Howard, who is the big boss of the SNK fighting game Fatal Fury. I couldn't believe Geese Howard was in this game. Obviously Akuma we've already talked about. That was an incredible launch. And one of the things Capcom said is in any story mode, Akuma can't lose. So when he has a battle against Kazuya, you never find out actually who wins. Noctis from Final Fantasy XV, which was okay, fine, great. And finally Negan from The Walking Dead. His release trailer was incredible, as it reenacted his release in the TV series and video games, where he had some of the Tekken characters on their knees before doing eeny miny mo about which one's brains are going to get splattered all over the place. And it was voiced by Jeffrey D. Morgan as well to make it even better. As the story goes through, Kazuya finally kills Heihachi and throws his body into a volcano. Akuma then appears and attacks Kazuya, and the result of the battle is unknown. And later it's shown that Jin is back on his feet, and along with his uncle Lars, is ready to try and save the world. Now, Heihachi being thrown off a volcano means absolutely nothing when it comes to video game logic. It really doesn't. The game was an absolute critical success and has been on the EVO stage for many years. Aside from being an absolutely fantastic fighting game, it also introduced new things such as Rage Art, which is a critical move unique to each character and only accessible while in Rage mode, causing it to deactivate until the next round. If that attack hits the opponent, it's going to start a cinematic sequence and deals about 30% damage, just depends on which character it is. Tekken 7 could be heralded as one of the best fighting games ever made. It built upon everything the series has been known for and absolutely destroyed Tekken 6. Now, I know I earlier said that Tekken 5 was the last one I had my hands on, and that is true. But I had been watching a lot of Tekken 7 over the years online and absolutely loved it and kind of regretted not getting into the game. That's why I'm really looking forward to playing Tekken 8 to see what else they build on this fantastic franchise. I wish I could play Noctis in the next one, but I don't think that's going to happen, and I think he's just going to sit there in Tekken 7 and never come out to play again. Now, before we get into Tekken 8, there is some things I want to talk about briefly, and these are the side games. Nearly each version of the game had their own little side game. Some were amazing, some were absolutely terrible. Tekken 3 introduced Tekken Ball, which is where you could play volleyball and hit a ball at your opponents and smack them left, right, centre with the ball only, which was just stupid and hilarious. It also had Tekken Force, which is its version of Streets of Rage. Ugh. Beat 'em up games were back in the day in the 2D era, and unfortunately they tried to do them here, but I don't like them. I really didn't, where you go and fight loads of minions and then you go fight one of the main characters at the end as a boss. It wasn't a fan for me. Other people may like them. Tekken Tag decided to bring Tekken Bowl, which was absolutely godlike, where two characters could just go bowling together. Want to take Kazuya and True Ogre for a bowling tournament? Yeah, fuck it, why not? Do it, it'll be great fun. And then a lot of the other games did a similar thing as Tekken 3. Tekken 4 had Tekken Force, Tekken 5 had Devil Within, Tekken 6 had Scenario Mode. Very similar games where you control some of the main characters in a kind of Streets of Ragey beat-em-up way. With those Tekken Force modes, it just felt really clunky and I just never really bonded with it. Although you could use a gun, which was absolutely hilarious. Now, although Tekken tries to come across as a serious fighter, some of its endings are actually a bit of fun. You often see the characters in kind of relaxed zones and not really doing anything central to the plot. When you look at the Williams sisters, they're regularly trying to humiliate each other, whether it's taking a photo of one of them out of a shower or trying to actually rip their clothes off when it comes to a stage fight. But there were a few which I thought was absolutely hilarious, and I'm going to show these here. You can argue it's trying to pad out the runtime. I don't care, we have to hit that hour marker by the end of the day. First up is Lee's ending from Tekken 5. And yeah, this pretty much sums up what I thought Lee was going to do. Jeez, what a body that man has. I'm not going to lie, the wife wouldn't do this for me. There's no chance. But this is what makes it great. I actually... Do you know, as a kid I didn't understand what two fingers meant? I had no idea. He's got an automatic bomb collar. It's so stupid. And the final one I'm going to show is Lee's ending from Tekken 6. Really, yeah, it's just Lee, because he's just one of the best characters in this. Who organises this golf course? Although he must hit that pretty well. Straight onto the green. And do we get anything? Oh, I love Heihachi in this. His endings are always so stupid. They must have had a lot of fun making this, the developers. He decides to try and do a Happy Gilmore-esque shot. And they're all dead. Stupid. Excellent. And before we get into Tekken 8, I think I should mention the fact that Tekken has tried its hands in the movie and TV world. Yes, it did. Well, of course it did. It's a franchise. It's going to try and milk every little penny it can. The first Tekken animated movie was, it was meh. I didn't mind it. It was alright. The animation was so-so, but it did what it had to do. It kind of retread some of the events from the first film, although it did produce this moment, which I consider one of the best moments ever in film. It also highlighted how much Nina cares for her sister.
We love you at all. He's just using you. Oh no.
Like, really? Your sister's about to get chomped on by a dinosaur, and all you go is, oh no. You're not going to warn her? No, just go, oh no. Jack was shown to be an almighty powerful god, and decided to do this for some reason.
Why did you do that?
And after seeing Jack do some pretty inhuman things, Lay's police skills finally kicked in.
Hey, your arm. It's gashed. So, you're really not human.
Next was the Tekken live-action film, and again, I didn't really have an issue with the first one. It was what it was. I just watched it, had a drink, and cracked on, really. So, yeah, go watch that at your leisure. But then they made a second one, and my only thoughts about that are... After that disaster, Tekken then went and decided to release Tekken Blood Vengeance, which was basically just a computer-animated movie, although there was a really cool fight scene between Heihachi, Devil Jin, and Kazuya. And finally, the most recent adaptation is Tekken Bloodlines, which is a Netflix series, which I was surprised when I saw the trailer for it. And it basically kind of skirts over the events of Tekken 3, tells their own little story. I really liked it. I thought it was a good little series. I would have liked to see more. I would have liked to see 1 or 2 more episodes, and I'd like to see this going forward. This all depends on how many eyes actually watch the show, if we're going to get it for Tekken 4, Tekken 5, and beyond. And everything has been leading to this, Tekken 8. It was first kind of announced when they used the old Tekken 1 Kazuya ending to kind of integrate from the old PlayStation 1 graphics to where we are now, and it did look pretty good. And then the first trailer dropped, and oh my, it looked absolutely beautiful. I was just like, gimme now. The character designs, the models, they just look beautiful seeing Kazuya and Jin going at it. And then eventually they started revealing more and more of the game. And then the big reveal, Jun Kazama was alive. Like, how? How is she alive? She died in Tekken 3! Well, officially she didn't die, she was just missing after the ogre attacked. And how are they going to explain that one? Well, there is one common fan theory. Well, it's not really a theory, it's kind of confirmed. Remember when I was talking about Tekken Tag 1 and how Unknown started off as Jun Kazama? Well, in Tekken Tag 2, it was confirmed that Unknown was Jun Kazama. Don't believe me? Watch this! Now, there's a possibility that Jun has now lost Unknown after the events of Tekken Tag Tournament 2, because we had this ending. The problem is that Tekken Tag and Tekken Tag 2 aren't considered canon, because the characters who are currently dead actually appeared. So I don't know how they're going to do this. They could use the Unknown angle if they wanted to, there's nothing saying they can't. They could just make Unknown canon. But it's going to take some usual writery fuckery to be able to get this working. Now, the plot of this game seems to be Kazuya vs Jin. The world now knows after Tekken 7 that Kazuya is the devil, and it ups to Jin to try to stop him. Now, I got to play the demo, we all did, it was up there now, and you got to play the first chapter of the game, which just casually shows that Jin can use his motorbike and go up a building, and then throw it at a helicopter. Yes, we've gone that way, we've gone full anime. The funny thing is, in the trailer, Kazuya actually tells Jin, you started this war, and he's right. Jin started this war, so there's so much blood on his hands, he can't really, take the moral high ground with this. We keep saying it. The cool thing is, there were 28 returning characters to this game with 4 new ones. 32 characters. That is more than Street Fighter 6. That is more than Mortal Kombat 1. That's impressive. 32 for your starting roster. And as usual, let's go through them. Jack 8, because... Yay, Jack 8. Coffee Lady. I'm not even giving her full name. No, she's Coffee Lady that dodges. That's a whole thing. She's searching the world for coffee. Just no. No. Then we've got Victor Chavalet. Chavalet, is that how you pronounce it? I probably absolutely butchered it. His design, holy shit. I haven't gone into in-depth of people, but holy crap. And then the guys from France. And I instantly got upset because all French people remind me of this.
Bonjour, you cheese-eating surrender monkeys!
Because I'm English, I'm allowed to make that joke. If you don't know, English and France have this common jokey hatred with each other. But then he started talking.
Les couchers de soleil sur la Seine me rappellent ce que je dois protéger. Je vais m'en charger.
Oh my god, he just seems incredible. I'm not usually a thing for the French accent, but it just reminds me of this.
Oh, say it again, Dexter. Omelette de fromage.
I'm sorry, I know I was using Asuka Kazama, but this guy looks so cool and so stylish. It's like a French James Bond, and he just looks absolutely incredible, and he's got a sword, and he uses a gun. Come on. He looks incredible. Finally, we have Reina. Now, Reina has links to the Mishima clan. It's not shown how, but automatically she's become an instant favourite to everybody. Don't believe me, look at a lot of other commentators who were talking about the beta. Yep, they just said it was mostly her. Now, is she another Heihachi spawn? Is she like Lars? We don't know. We have no idea. Probably is. Or it could be one of Kazuya's extra ones. We don't know. See, the Mishima family is so toxic, it just belongs on Jerry Springer. Like them sitting there with security in between them. Like, there was an ending in Tekken Tag Tournament 2 for Lars, which was actually quite nice, and all of them just sitting there, including the Kazamas, sitting there just getting on very nicely. Now, I know before anyone comes at me, I know there were people missing. Jinpachi wasn't there. You didn't have Late. I know. Stop it. Stop it, people. Like, yes, we've seen the character roster, and I am very impressed with it. I wonder about some of the DLC. Now, there have been leaks, but these aren't confirmed, so I'm not going to go into them. But one of them I want to see more than anything is actually a guest character, and that's Tifa from Final Fantasy VII. I just believe that this kind of makes sense. If you were going to put Noctis in from Final Fantasy 15, then putting Tifa in from Final Fantasy VII makes the best business sense going forward. With Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out the following month, isn't this the best way to promote the game? Like, surely, if you put this in, if you put Tifa in, I'm playing this all day long, and I will not use anyone else but Tifa. No French guy, no Asuka. It will just be Tifa Lockhart. I will be non-stop with her. It just seems an easy way to promote Final Fantasy VII. She would fit in. She would fit in so well to Tekken, more than probably any other Final Fantasy character they could fit in. So I think she's coming. It's a wait and see. I do think it's happening though. And when the game was announced, I was like, oh yeah, come out in 2023. Be great for the fans. It'd be absolutely incredible. But then I thought to myself, well, I can actually understand why it's not coming out until 2024. Because if they did bring it out, whilst it's great for fans, you also got to coming into a market with Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 1 at the same time. So you want to make sure you kind of get away from them a little bit, and then you can have the spotlight right to yourself. And that's what's going to be happening. The hype of Mortal Kombat 1 has died down. Street Fighter 6 is still doing very well. But now is the time for Tekken to shine, and really it's going to be Street Fighter 6 vs Tekken 8 going forward. Now, I finally got my hands on this game, not through the demo, but at PAX Australia 2023, where I was invited as one of the media to go down and see this game. And it was a proper demo. It didn't just have 4 characters like it did in the demo. It had about 10, I think. And now, bear in mind, as I said earlier, I haven't played a Tekken properly since Tekken 5. And I jumped in straight away and used Asuka Kazama. Jun was there and I did get to play with her. I played with a character. And when I was using it, it was like that Celine Dion song. It's all coming back to me because my muscle memory kicked in. I was like, oh yes, here we go. And I only lost 1 game the whole time I played, and that was using June. But I was so impressed with what this game looks like and how this game feels. I just wanted to sit there and play more Tekken 8. But unfortunately I wasn't allowed as I had my allocated time and I was asked to move. But I managed to come back on day 2 and day 3 and play some more. Absolutely loving it. Either way, I believe Tekken 8 is finally the game that Tekken fans are going to absolutely lord over, and has the potential to really beat Street Fighter and become the dominant fighting game of the community. And that is really it. We've got a few more weeks until it comes out, and I'm going to be excited. I hope you are. I'd love to know in the comments below which character is your main. I want to hear it. But if you've stayed through to the whole thing, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Because that's it. That's my summary of Tekken and a little retrospective, my own experience of the series. I hope you've really enjoyed it. If you have, please give a like, please give a comment, and please subscribe for more content. I'm going to try and do these maybe once every month or 2 months. Next up is Final Fantasy VII, ahead of that game. But until then, if you want some more, make sure you head over to the Retro Wars podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from, where we do a new episode every week. But until then, my name's been Danny. You all take care of yourselves. See you then. Bye-bye.